So it looks like everything kind of came in as expected. Like a lot different than yesterday's batch of earnings, right? Microsoft kind of got hit. Apple didn't. Intel didn't. Intel actually bounced. Tesla actually held up. Apple right now 247. Not a huge move, but nonetheless, at least it's to the upside. And more importantly, if you did anything yesterday from a volatility perspective on any of these stocks, you were a winner today because everything came in, for the most part, at least those two, everything came in within the expected move. So no surprises, which is surprising to me because I expected Apple to actually not be, I didn't think it was going to be down, but I didn't think it was going to be up this much, only because it seemed like everybody, no matter who you talk to, at least in the investment community, everyone was kind of leaning bearish, right? And usually when that's the case, and usually it's always the opposite that happens. So that's kind of where things sit this morning. NASDAQ's up pretty decently this morning, too. What are we up? 160, I think, the last I checked. 170. 170.25, 21,795. S&Ps are up close to 30. Russell isn't doing dreck. And bonds are off about 4 handles. Right. And gold kind of still sitting up here on its all-time highs. And so that's kind of it. There was really no, kind of pretty uneventful, honestly, for an earnings kind of night. Unlike the previous night was really interesting, right? Because you had IBM that blew it up, right? They blew out. That was probably the biggest move that I've ever seen since the last time. But for IBM on earnings, I can't recall the last time IBM had that kind of a move for earnings. I cannot remember. I mean, usually IBM's, for the most part, either it kind of tanks or it does nothing at all. And most of the times it really does nothing. But, that's a huge, huge gap up. And the only thing I can think of why, and I didn't go and look at the freaking report because I don't care. You know what I mean? To me, it's like I start reading those earnings reports, and after about 20 seconds, my ADHD kicks in, and I'm like, can somebody give me the Cliff Notes? Because I don't want to read through all this bullshit. I'm not an accountant. I don't, you know what I mean? I just look at the headline just like everybody else, revenue beat, revenue miss, blah, 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 right? And then, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It's what the market thinks. And so really that's kind of the thing, obviously the market. So the only thing I think is like all those acquisitions long ago are finally paying off for IBM with the data center, with, the acquisition of Red Hat, and licensing and all that other stuff that has to do with the data center. It has to be what's kind of given IBM a lot of fuel. And it's good for Big Blue, right? Who cares? So they're doing good. And, So, and there's nothing, I was actually looking too, and it kind of sucks, like, when things do this, because now you go in and look at IBM. If this thing will let me type. There we go. IBM. Volatility did absolutely collapse. Like, look at this here. You see this down the bottom here, right? That's a big move. We were sitting up near 90, in the 90s. and now current volatility is at 46.5. So, but I was actually looking in here for a possible trade on IBM. I don't know if I would want to get long, only because after a big move like this, we have and then technically, if you want to look at technicals, just going back, there's several gaps here. And I don't know what your feeling is about gaps, but they do tend to get filled over time, right? And so, that's a little concerning to me that, does this thing maintain its momentum? And so I don't know. I would have to think that leaning in a little short on IBM here after this big move may not be a bad idea. And do it small. And I was thinking of something like a calendar spread, like maybe a put calendar going up to about the 60 delta brings me up to about the 265, right? So usually when I buy options, I always like to get about 60 deltas. And why is that? That's because we want to get intrinsic value. And if you don't know what intrinsic value is, go just Google it. Or chat GPT it, just talk to it into your phone, and I'm sure you'll get, 1,000 definitions of what it is, and they're all pretty much the same. So that's what we're looking for here. And I'm also looking for time, right? I want to give myself a little bit time for me to be right. So I was kind of thinking possibly like a 265... 260, the 265, 260 April, March calendar spread, right? We're going to buy the 265. We're going to sell the 260 March. Going to do that for about $388. Pretty relatively cheap trade. We're not going to get any statistics on it because it's very hard for the algorithm in here to calculate statistics on it. But you're looking at something that has about a 62 to 63% probability of profit. And, the overall underlying thing here is that IBM, it can go up a bit more, but it can't keep going up, right? It actually has to at least stop its upward trajectory for this thing to actually come in and be profitable. And so that's kind of where I'm looking at this on IBM. And so the 265, 260 kind of like post earnings. I wanted to let yesterday kind of roll through before I did this too. I didn't want to just, because I really wasn't sure on how the market was going to react through the day on IBM. And so that's why I didn't do this yesterday after earnings. But today, this is one of the trades that I'm going to put on. Again, small trade. I'm not looking to, kill it in this. And this is like getting close to about 7 shares, 7 deltas or so on IBM. And so there's one for you today that I think, again, we're going to go out. We're going out to April. April has 76 days left. It is a swing trade. This is not a day trade. Obviously, if IBM tanks in the next couple of days and goes to like 230, you bet your ass I'm going to close this and pack up my tents. But that's not really the intention here. So that one we're going to throw out there for today. And then let's look into the other one I wanted to look at was Meta. I mean, this stock, my God, this has not had a freaking downtick. And it seems like the bigger jerk off Zuckerberg is, the better his stock does. It's kind of amazing. He is probably the biggest douchebag, though, right now out in the technical world. And I don't have a problem with it. I mean, Cal wants to be a douchebag. I don't care. I don't know him. I don't work for him. I just trade his stock. But this thing just has not had a downtick, like literally all year. I mean, it's been going back to, my God, what, November? 22, it's just been a moonshot. It's insane. It's insane. And at what point, right, is this going to... And I don't even know if I want to stand in front of this. It's a little nerve-wracking. But this is going to pay the piper at some point, right? You have to believe that this is going to have to... But, I'm not going to stand in front of a train. And there's really no trade in Meta either. If you actually put it in here, no volatility whatsoever. Volatility rank of 15.3. However, the trade yesterday for earnings did come in really nicely. So if anybody did a strangle or even I did a strangle and an iron condor, both of which came in the next day profitable. So I'm gone out of those. But, this thing doesn't seem to have an end. And you could see yesterday volatility went from in the 50s to now in the double digits here, 15.3. So that's a huge collapse. So I don't know if there's a lot of there. You need to buy options in here, and I don't know how you get long. I can't do it. I mean, I know there's people that have a lot of more ambition than me to get long a stock like this. To me, I just think this is like a massive short, pretty much setting up in the very same fashion as NVIDIA. But it just doesn't seem to have any momentum to the downside. It seems like every downtick is just bought. I don't know how long that lasts, but I can't even figure out what I would actually do in here to try and get short, because it seems like even no matter what you've done, you just got run over by a truck. You can't sell calls in here because the margins suck. There's no volatility. If you buy puts, I don't even think you can do a 60 delta. I think if you buy puts, you got to go up to the 70 or 80 delta, I think, to give yourself enough room for it to go down. Like if we went, let's say I went to the 750. I'm out here in April. Let's say I went to the 750, 745. That's going to run me $300 out in April. It's got a 70% probability of profit, but I'm going to spend $300 to make $129. I mean, not bad. I mean, really, it's not an actual bad return. And I have a lot of kind of runway to the upside. But just the way this thing's been going, I can actually honestly see this thing just kind of plowing through here. I mean, that's a pretty big move. And there happens to be like no open interest up here at all. So there's literally nobody even hedging their bets at all. I see nothing up here at all. Like you see, open interest is light. There's some spots on the call side that look interesting, right? You got, the 700s. You got the 745s, I see, with some open interest. 760s, but literally nothing on the put side. Like nobody's home. It's crazy. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't even really have a trade in here. I mean, unless you're going to do something like binary and look for that one day where it's actually down. But good luck with that. Trying to find that. So, I mean, that's kind of all I would look to do. And as much as a shitty trade that is, I mean, if you really feel like you need to do something in Meta, I kind of feel like I have to do something in Meta only because I don't have any exposure to it at all. And it is a mover and it has a lot of volume. And so I may or may not do that. I'm just throwing it up here because I'm not thinking out loud here. And, and if you're going to buy calls, you got to do the same thing. If you're going to buy calls and you're bullish, buying ridiculously out of the money calls at this point, I don't know how beneficial that's going to be. You're really going to need to do something with some positive delta in here. And again, I think it's untradeable at this point. Other than that, I may do that. Like I said, I kind of like that only because it gives me some negative delta. How many deltas was that? It was the actual 70 delta, which is the 745. 740. That's the actual 70. That's the 71 delta as of today in April. Gives me 76 days. Cost me $300 to make 190. Not bad. 70% pop. It's like buying 2 shares. I mean, again, I know it's not a lot, but, buy 2 shares of Meta, right? Leverage wise. And, you're talking 13, 14, $1,500 as opposed to 300. So you do the math. What's a little better leverage? Doing the options by far. So anyway, that's Meta. I don't really want to go down that road much further. And then we have Apple, where today, again, all that stuff. There's no options available. What is going on? Oh boy. All right. Anyway, I'll do it, right? I don't even know how to spell. I'm getting stupider and stupider in my old age. I'm expecting this to have a pretty decent volatility crush today. Again, Apple's another one where I'm not real chipper about getting long Apple here. I kind of like leaning in a little short. I also have Apple stock. So, I actually want to hedge myself a little bit. The trade that I actually like today in Apple is to, sell a little call premium in here, but I just don't see I don't really see any spot that looks interesting to me to really touch on. The 270s maybe in April. I'd have to take a look at the 270s. They closed yesterday. They're going to be up today. So, but look at open interest in here and Apple as opposed to the open interest in Meta, right? What a difference. This is out in April. I mean, look at the size here. It's massive, right? That's why it's great to trade Apple, especially the options. They're so liquid. But I kind of like I like selling the 270s here. And depending on what they're priced at, let's see, it's up $10. I could probably figure it out. $10. These are probably going to be worth about $290. But if there's a volume, probably about $290. I bet these are about $290. And I would sell the 270, 280 call spread. I think you'd likely be able to do this for $2. I'm pretty confident that's about where that's going to come in today based on where the price is here. May even a little more. Maybe even like 225. But again, look, I already have stock. You might say, why are you doing the spread? Well, I'll do the spread in my IRA because I don't have the margin, but it's covered call for me. So 270 covered here is actually nice, and I think you could probably sell this for about 270, probably for about 225, maybe even closer to 250 if Apple holds up here. So to me, that's kind of where I would like to do, and that will give me 22, but it's actually going to give me bigger delta than that. I'm talking probably about a 30 delta here. So it's going to give me negative 30 deltas on my 100 shares of Apple. I'll still be net positive in delta, but I'm actually putting a little negative delta on with the fact, look, I don't know if it's sustainable here for Apple. Okay, no, their they beat and blah blah blah. Bah, 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 bah. But although this has had even some drawdowns, this has been this has been just a powerhouse all the way up too. And this soon will have to pay the piper. And then if we want to do our third grade drawing here and put some magic lines on here that nobody else has, like they mean something, there you go. There's some magic lines for you. And you have all-time record highs at whatever it is, 260. I don't even know. Look it up. It's 261, I think it is. Is it 261 or something like that? It might not even be 260. So selling the 270s, I don't think is such a bad play. $260. So selling the 270s aren't a bad play here today, I think. So that's where I'm going to lean in a little bit on Apple. I'm hoping to do it before the volatility kind of collapses in here. I want to do this trade within the first 10 minutes of the open because I want that volatility to kind of stay in those options before I sell them. I'm right? Yeah, that's really what I want to happen. So this one I'm going to do right away. And that's a little after earnings trade in Apple. And you could see we were looking back, kind of rolling back here in February. We were looking at 220 to 260, and we came in at 245. So if you got the iron condor or you did the strangle, you're sitting pretty today, because that's going to come in, that's going to collapse. This volatility is going to collapse. Those premiums are going to dive, and then you're going to be able to buy that back. Probably be a decent winner on that, no doubt. All right, and so that's kind of story. Then last but not least, not last yet, but let's talk about Intel. Intel, right? I talked about what the hell do you do on Intel? Well, I thought, again, I said the thing that I thought you could do, and the only thing you could really do, was sell the 20 puts. And you sell the 20 puts, or if you didn't have the capital to do so, do the put spread. Do the 2015 put spread and bring in some premium and kind of like reduce basis. Or you could have done the covered call, right? Buy the stock, sell the 20. Your cost basis is 18 and change. It's sitting right around 20. It didn't move much at all, went over 20. And so you're sitting pretty in that trade today. And then if you get this volatility to collapse, I will tell you that selling that put is going to come in real nicely today, especially if this volatility, if this IV rank goes from like the 90s to the 50s, even the 40s, that put is just going to, that premium in that put is going to collapse bigly, as they say. So yeah, that turned out to be a pretty decent one. And I don't have an after earnings. Intel's a piece of shit, so I don't even want to deal with it. So I have that very trade here, just to show you that I'm not lying. I actually did a little bit different trade. Here's the Intel trade right here. If you can see it, it's at the bottom of the screen. I did the exact trade I was talking about in February. I sold the 2015, but what I actually did too is I also bought the 20 call. So I actually skewed it heavy delta positive, and I have every intention to just pull this out today, and I'm just going to dump it. So it's going to probably be up, and I got to do it, especially the call. I got to dump the call right away on the market open, just so I can catch this volatility before it collapses. And so that's the story in Intel. So, and then lastly, short program today. Exxon, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I was trying to do something. I just didn't see anything here. There really wasn't enough volatility. The expected move was kind of tight. And as I said, trying to mess around when the volatility is low with an earnings trade or a binary event is very hard. Because, unless you want to go and roll the dice and buy options and then make yourself force yourself to have to be right. I don't know. I don't want to play that game. Because I know I'm not going to be right like majority of the time. But what I do know is if, the probabilities of me doing something outside the expected move and at or around the one standard deviation, the probability of profit is almost 70 or 80%. Or do I go into a trade where I got a probability of basically whether it's 50-50? And, it's not even 50-50 because if I buy options, it's more like 30-70 I'm going to lose because what I'm not adjusting for is the volatility that I'm paying for in my options when I buy them. So anyway, I didn't do anything in Exxon, and I don't know if they did. They just released. That's why, yeah. Exxon production was the highest level in 10 years, blah, 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 right? All this good news, and this thing has gone nowhere. It's up $1. And there you have it. So never a real big mover anyway on earnings. Exxon's kind of one of those old, it's an old smokestack company, right? Make deals with all that dirty fuel. But it is a staple. What are you going to do? It's a staple. So that was it. And we didn't do anything with any of the other earnings plays. Ben Franklin, I don't even know why that's even on here. Who trades that? Lyondell Basel, AbbVie, Chevron. That looks like that's down $2. That didn't really, again, IV rank was low. Exxon came out. Also, Tyson Foods is like another one that's, I don't even know why this is on the list even as a tasty earnings trade because, who the hell trades Tyson Foods? Tyson Foods to me is a type of stock that you just kind of, you buy it and, you inherit that from like your grandfather and you say, what the frig did you buy Tyson Foods for? And he says, Sonny, I bought it for like $10 or I got it for a coupon because I bought, 100 pounds of chicken or something. But that's kind of the stock that is. I can't see that. What's why is that even on here? I wonder what the liquidity rating in that is. It says it's a 3-star liquidity rating. I don't know. Is it a mover? Tyson Foods? Fuck yeah. Holy shit. That's an eye-opener for me. Oh, my God. This thing fucking moves around. Holy shit. Wow. No shit. Good price action, too, between this range. Like 53 and 66. Wow. Interesting. That might be... wow. I would never... let's see what it looks like, though. I bet you the options suck. Oh, yeah. They're terrible. 15-cent wide. There's some open interest though. In February at least. There's some. I don't know what you really do. And here's another one where I don't even know what you do. It's literally like, you're gonna sell a strangle, the expected move is $2. You can't do anything with that. There's just not enough not enough runway for you to be right. So anyway, that comes out next week. And next week, we got some big ones. We got some big ones next week. We got Palantir, which that's going to be a big one, not just because it's Palantir. It's a big one because IV rank is 94. And this one's a player. And this is a fun one to trade. This one has a lot of liquidity, in my opinion. It's got dollar-wide strikes all the way up and down. So you can slice and dice this one pretty good, Palantir. So that one's going to be a good one for next week, I think. And again, because of that high IV rank and because of the liquidity, lots and lots of open interest. I never had a problem getting in and out of trades on this. And so, again, full disclosure. I always like to tell people, full disclosure. I had somebody say, while you talk about all this stuff, here's Palantir right here. I have a Jade Lizard on. I don't just talk. What purpose do I have to do that? If I'm going to do a trade, I'm going to do it. I have nothing to prove to anybody. I'm not selling no service. I'm asking you to sign up for anything. So what the fuck do I care? What do I care? I don't care. Here it is. Right? And you can see I got a ton of losers in my account. I've been telling everybody, too, for months, my bond trade sucks. I'm getting killed in my bond. My long TLT turned out to be the biggest headache of my life. But, hey, what are you going to do? Some lose, some win. Some lose big, some win big. What are you going to do? That's right, nature of the beast. But you see, I got a ton of losers in here, man, and they're not all winners, man. It's all in how you manage them. So anyway, I have a Jade Lizard on in Palantir, and basically what a Jade Lizard is, it's selling a put, and you sell a put, and then you sell put spread, and then you sell an upside call against it. So that's really it. It's something Tasty Trade came up with. I mean, I think that it's been called other things before. I think it's like I think it's similar to like a collar. But different, but whatever, who cares? Whatever it's called. It's selling a put spread and selling a call. So anyway, I have that. So that's going to be a good one for earnings, a Palantir, right? So we'll take a look at that one next week for sure. Super Micro, I mean, although I know this one kind of hits everybody's radar, I don't know if this is even going to be worth it or not. Not real good volatility in this at all. I mean, at 53.7, that doesn't really... I would have expected this to be much higher. It's not. And I will tell you, overall, the markets in here are not the best. They're not terrible. They're not terrible. They are about 10 cents to 15 cents wide at times. But it is somewhat liquid, so we may look at it and see what we can do in there, and that's next week too. But there are some pretty decent ones, I think, that are going to come out next week as well, because you got the AMDs, you got the Google L, or Goog. I usually trade Google. You got the AMDs, you got the Googles. You got a couple pharmaceuticals that we might look at. Merck is one that I kind of had on my radar, and not because it's a pharmaceutical company, but kind of twofold, that it's a pharmaceutical company, and it's also Ivy Rankin here has been bid for quite a while now, since probably the end of last year. And, this sitting at 94 Ivy rank, I think, is a little out of the ordinary. This isn't usually a stock that runs very hot from a volatility perspective. So I think this one's going to be a good one for earnings. Again, I'm already in a couple of trades. I own Merck stock. I also have a couple of positions in Merck. Do I have a couple? I think I have one. So I'm a liar. I said a couple. I'm in a put spread. I'm short the 95.90 put spread in February. So I'll be looking to do something with Merck next week. And I think this will be a good one because, as I said, the Ivy rank is really high in there. You also have PayPal. This one's kind of a mixed bag for me. It's been good and it's been bad, and it's been all the in-betweens. Ivy rank of 60 is a little historically high. I mean, you can see it usually runs up on the volatility scale before earnings, and then it collapses. So it's usually good for that. Problem is that you can't be directional in PayPal. It's very tough because it'll make you eat your lunch. And I've had it make me eat my lunch when I was bearish, and I skewed things bearish, and I got run over, and also when I was bullish. and it turned out bearish. I've gotten run over, but I've gotten run over a few times in this stock, but nonetheless, good IV rank, decent liquidity. Markets are okay. Again, I'm not going to give them a huge thumbs up, but there's decent liquidity in here. You can see up and down the option chain. There's a good number of open interest all the way up, and it has dollar-wide strikes. So you could play small in here, and so PayPal for next week as well. So that's it. That's all I got. There's nothing else I'm doing. I'll talk about the ES a little bit today. I'm going to I may trade some ES today. I don't know. I don't normally trade the ES on a day where we've already broken through one of the R2s. So usually if the market breaks R2 or S2, either way, resistance or support, I pretty much am like off the table for trading for the day. I just say, you know what? It's kind of beyond where I'm at. Now, what's interesting is like right now, we are basically kind of hitting our head on R2. And we do have some numbers coming out. I think there's some econ, isn't there? Coming out today at 8:30. I tried to even check. I mean, I don't know. Who cares? Does it even matter? All news is good news. Yeah, core PCE. Unemployment costs. Unemployment, Fed Bowman. Blah, 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 blah. So anyway, there is econ. It is going to move things at least. I don't usually trade those things anyway, so I wouldn't get long or short. But the fact that we've already breached R2 here today, and I'm kind of, the only thing that I would be looking at is if we get a sell-off today and we go back down to S2, which is 60.53. I may engage and go in for a little bounce trade there. Outside of that, that's it. So that's the ES and what I'm looking at. I would not trade R3. If we get enough momentum, chances are we're going to blow through that. It's just my opinion. And so that's kind of the story on the ES. And I'm going to point this out, and I'm going to put this up real quick because I think this is really cool. So yesterday, I have number of pivots back. I'm going to do 2. Watch this. And I caught this trade yesterday, and I consider myself, and I'm not boasting at all. Look, I caught this. I'm considering myself the luckiest guy on the freaking planet. I absolutely am the luckiest person on the planet because honestly, I was sitting and I actually have a real job. So I was actually doing that real job. And I just so happened to look, and I always wind up looking at the market around 2:30, 3 o'clock. And we hit, is it even showing? Why isn't it not showing up? We hit R2 yesterday. And that is where we got, and then the market just collapsed yesterday, if everyone remembers. I think I have to look at it on the hourly. And we collapsed. Here it is. It was R2, as I remember it vividly. Right here. Was it R2 or R1? Maybe it was R1. I know it hit a resistance. I can't remember which one. It was this one right here. It was this 1 hour candle because I even was like, because at the time it was actually a 5-minute candle. I'm like, I can't believe this is a 5-minute candle. And anybody caught that sell-off yesterday. It was around 3:30. And again, I consider myself the luckiest guy in the planet because I just happened to look and I'm like, oh wow, that thing's sitting right around a resistance pivot and it didn't go through it that day. And I'm like, you know what? It's a good time for a short. Yes, here it is right here. It was R1. Oh no, it was R2. It was R2. I knew it was R2. R2. So we hit that and literally and we saw, and I'm like, you know what? It did everything I look for when it goes to these pivots. Now it's really important when you trade these pivots. If you have serious momentum moving up to a pivot, take it off the table. But if you have grinding trading action where you're slowly grinding up to that level, chances are that resistance pivot's not going to hold. And that's exactly what happened. And I just happened to see it. Again, I consider myself the luckiest person on the planet yesterday. Because, again, it was just a strategy I use. And, I just happened to look and wow, I was like, and I caught the entire 5-minute candle I took one contract. I did one contract. I ain't going to tell you how much I made. You do the math. But it was about 35 or 40 ticks, and I just said, you know what, I'm done. I hit this flatten, and I walked away. I was like, oh, wow, I'm the luckiest guy on the planet today. Had every intention of getting stopped out. I usually use a small stop. When I trade the ES, very small stop. 8 ticks tops, 10 sometimes. In this case, I did 8 ticks. But yeah, so that's just shows that the pivots work. They do work on the ES at least. So, and this is just the pivots that come with TradingView, free one. That's all I use. And I use Fibonacci pivots. So anyway, that's it. I consider myself the luckiest person on the planet from yesterday. No doubt about it. And sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while, as they say. And that's all I got today. I don't think I think today's going to be pretty uneventful. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we barely eke out a green day. It kind of has all the makings of, a slow grinding trade. And then I can see them kind of giving up the ghost today before the end of the day. All right, so that's it. That's all I got. Have a good one, and have a good weekend.